Thank you, President Von Braun, your Madam President of the European Union, dear distinguished ambassadors, scholars, ministers of state, and all. I want to associate myself with the words of welcome pronounced by the President of the Academy with a small explanation about where you are, the venue of our meeting, and then go on to simply provoke you a little bit with what is ahead of us. And the first thing is, can humanity build itself out of the climate crisis with a tree? And that apparently is going to be a big subject matter for us. Can we build ourselves out of the climate crisis with a tree? Or if we take the standpoint of the academy, excuse me, then we probably formulate it as, can our salvation from the climate crisis come out of the tree? Christians will readily say yes, because Christians have a tradition that salvation comes from the tree, because Jesus was crucified on a tree. But we now want to explore the same thing from the point of view of the solutions proposed with the use of a tree for this. So this is a proposal that has been advanced and which has brought us here for this discussion. And is building technology, our current building technology leaves a heavy carbon footprint, either with the production of cement, or the production of iron and steel, or the production of aluminum. Both of them are related with heavy carbon footprint. And I'm glad in this regard that Professor Shelley Huber is occasioning our discussion of this. A few months ago in Düsseldorf, when he was being given a prize for sustainability, I witnessed a lot of display by different components from the German public about how wood provides alternatives to the building culture that we have now, and how that can provide a solution. So it is a search for building human habitats which leave very little or hardly any carbon footprint. And the project Bauhaus der Erde invites us along that path of discovery and search. So we shall listen to a history of the idea of Bauhaus der Erde, but we shall also listen to parallel experiences of this. Professor Huber will share with us the history of the idea and how it's been developed to this point. But I'd like to draw attention to the parallels that we have. It is said about St. Francis of Assisi, whose name Pope Francis bears and takes, that one of his spiritual experiences was that he was spoken to from the cross. And from this cross, he was invited to go and build the house. And he understood that as building a church which was fallen in ruins. So that he did. But then he discovered that it wasn't only that. It was also to build the spirits of broken people and have people heal again. So he ended up developing an environment, but also developing broken people, broken spirits, and having people come back together. So that was St. Francis of Assisi. In the current crisis that we face, multiple, climate, health, because of COVID healthcare crisis, and even growth, development and growth crisis, Pope Francis has also invited us to also imagine a future which will respond to our dream, and our dream would also respond to the cries of the earth and the cry of the poor. So the response to a dream, he says, come let us dream about a viable future, about a future that helps humanity heal and grow. And that dream would also provide a response to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. So in that sense, Pope Francis also tacks on to that of St. Francis of Assisi, inviting us to heal. And in our own day, probably not too recent, Father Mr. Achim Steiner, who used to lead the SDG project on the United Nations, also tagged himself onto the saint of Pope Francis because last year he accepted to do a commentary on Laudato Si. And in doing that, he said, the future of humanity out of this crisis is an empty space where people and the planet will not just survive, but thrive together and be sustained and sustainable if they know how to come together and dream about a better future to flourish. It is this dreaming about a better future to flourish which is brought us all here. And as you can tell from the title of your program book, that's what it's all about. We're looking at a better future which will be signaled by the revolutionary and innovatory use of wood and all, which the experts would address to us. And welcome you all then very happily to this conference, and we eagerly look forward to listen to your inspiring innovative ideas in this regard. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you all of participants. Thank you.